Now, this might just be my biggest surprise of 2024. I thought Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was going to be good, but I didn't expect it to be this good. I've spent nearly 22 hours with the game over the course of the opening week, doing every side objective, nearly every puzzle, and a handful of notes and pictures, and I'm here to tell you this game is really damn good. When this was first announced a little after Machine Games was acquired by Microsoft, I was a little excited, but also worried that we were just going to be getting an Uncharted game, but with the Indiana Jones skin on it. That could not have been farther from the truth, and what we actually ended up getting is a game that more so closely resembles that of something like Dishonored, minus the powers, while also channeling those immersive sim light elements baked into the game's different locations that can offer upwards of 6 hours of content in each of them. These range from optional side content that further expands on the main story, or by doing optional treasure tombs and puzzles that require just a little bit more brain power. Or maybe you're in the mood to box some Nazis and you can go ahead and you can lay the beat down on them. And when I tell you that I found myself doing nearly everything in all these locations, I mean almost everything, just because I was having so much fun doing them. And it wasn't something that I was expecting to have that much fun doing in the game, and that is actually a reoccurring theme throughout this review. I thought I would hop on, it would be a quick 12 to 14-hour game, and then I'd be done with it. Wouldn't think anything of it. And while you can just rush through the game in that 12 to 14 hours, I think you'd be doing a big disservice if you didn't explore and try to actually, look around all these different locations that the game presents us with. Because one of the favorite aspects of this game is that it truly makes you feel like the man himself.
Good luck, Indy.
Legends say these relics hold a force that could change the course of history.
You're messing with powers beyond your control.
So let's go ahead and dive into the performance. So I went ahead and I played the game through the Game Pass app on PC on an RTX 4080 and an i7 13700K with all my settings turned to the epic value. And I do also want to note here that for the first 2 to 3 days of the early access period, we actually did not have access to the path tracing feature that was made available on the 8th, a little before the full release of the game. While the path tracing looks amazing and it looks great, I personally can't recommend it at this moment just due to the absolute hit on performance. Even with my 4080, it was struggling to maintain a constant and solid frame rate with dips and stuff. So I went ahead and I just turned that off because when that was off, absolutely amazing. Like I'm talking, this is incredible how well and steady the game would run. Smooth 144 frames during gameplay. The cutscenes are locked at 60 FPS. It's also going to be 60 FPS if you do decide to play it on Series X. I'm not sure what the Series S FPS is going to be. You do have to hand it to the level designers, the artists, everyone that worked on the game here on the environment side, because all these different environments that you go to throughout the game, they all feel special and they all feel like they're ripped right out of an Indiana Jones movie. The game looks so gorgeous, whether you're in the tunnels of the Vatican, the pyramids of Giza, or the jungle forest of Sukhothai. All these areas are beautiful to walk around and interact with because you're going to be able to interact with them in some different ways. And you're going to be interacting with this world in the first person view, which was something that I was a little worried about at first, but within the first hour of gameplay, I'd put all those worries aside. There are times, though, when the camera is going to pull back to a third person perspective that's usually going to be reserved for the traversal sequences that allow you a bit of a better view for the action and all that is going on around you. From a technical point, the game is sound, the optimization is great if you do have the hardware necessary to run the game, because the minimum card is going to be something like a 2060. So the game is going to require a pretty beefy system, but if you're able to meet those requirements, so far from what I've heard, the game seems to be running pretty well. And the id Tech engine that they used for this, keep it up. In this game, well, you play as Indiana Jones, but at a younger time in his life, 1937 to be exact. And if you didn't know better, you would assume that Harrison Ford was doing the voice. I mean, they already got his face, so why not? But this is the video game veteran and legend Troy Baker. And when I tell you that I forget that it's Troy sometimes, just because of how much he nails that Harrison Ford performance, down to the way he talks, down to the mannerisms in the cutscenes, and all the gameplay segments, it's something that I'm able to just forget that it's him.
That's the Earth. Throughout history, mankind has built sites of great spiritual significance. Siwa, Giza, Persepolis, Mohenjo-Daro, Sukhothai, Nazca, Machu Picchu. Now, here's the strange part. If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, You get a perfectly aligned circle.
The Great Circle.
Exactly.
And that's not something I can usually say because Troy does have a pretty distinct voice and he's sort of known as the video game guy. That was actually one of the main reasons Todd Howard originally was kind of against casting him. Apparently, it came down to Troy and another actor, and 9 times out of 10, everyone picked Troy, and he really does nail that Harrison Ford performance. Not gonna call it an impression, but I forget that it's Troy sometimes, and I think he did his job, and that you could really tell he went for that role and he just put all that work into it. If you've seen the movies, in your mind, Indy acts or behaves a certain way, and this does feel like a genuine adaptation of the character, building upon that framework instead of trying to make it their own and do this whole different interpretation of the character. The attention to detail in this game and the story is something that Machine Games themselves should be proud of, and even if you aren't an Indiana Jones fan, this game might make you one, and it'll certainly have you grinning from ear to ear. The first little bit of gameplay that we do get here had me feeling this sort of sense of deja vu. It had felt like I had watched this whole sequence, and well, that's because I had. Machine Games had the balls to recreate the opening of the first movie, damn near shot for shot remake of the entire opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But this sequence is short lived because Dr. Jones is waking up from a dream, and it's here we're awoken to a commotion where an artifact has been stolen from the college. And once this artifact is stolen, Indy follows that mystery to the Vatican, and that's sort of where we get the first open section that you're able to explore within the story. And here within this story, you are going to have Indy as the main focal character, but then you're also going to have a few side characters. You're going to meet Gina. She has her own story to tell, and how that interweaves with Indy's is actually pretty nice. She's used also in some gameplay sequences where she'll unlock doors for you. It's not something like you can tell her to unlock a door. It's usually at sort of pre-scripted sequences, but her character and how their relationship evolves over the course of the story, I actually liked. Then you've got the big baddie Voss and his German henchman, and the actor who played Voss. Dude did a great job because I mean, the guy's a Nazi. You already hate him enough, but he just was so insufferable by the end of it. And I got to give the guy credit. He nailed it. And then lastly, we do have the late and great Tony Todd, who did pass away just before this game was released. He does play a pretty solid role within the game's story and the narrative. Each of these characters turn in a great performance, and I, for one, think this would have made one kick-ass movie in the series. And I'm not actually sure if this is going to be considered canon in the overall broader scheme of things, but in my eyes, it is. But while the movie is a much more linear experience, I was expecting the gameplay to follow more so that same structure. And I don't think I was actually ready for the level of freedom that you're actually awarded here. While yes, you can beeline that main story and pass by a lot of the other side content, optional tombs, or missions, I think you're going to be giving the game a bit of a disservice if you don't go ahead and experience those moments. Because they add a little bit more depth to the characters for the area that you're in. Then you get puzzles that have unique areas that you otherwise wouldn't go to in the main story. All this really feels like you're living that big Indiana Jones adventure, and it's kind of something that I feel like he himself would do, tracking down all the lost artifacts, putting him somewhere maybe a little more appropriate. And while yes, you can just run right to the main mission objective in these mini open worlds, they're actually going to be worth exploring and looking around most of the time. While the side missions usually offer up a little bit more of narrative flair and have some cutscenes to go along with them, then you have the mysteries, which are usually tombs or puzzles, and these are going to be you solving a mystery, a code, cracking some sort of, mystery. These are going to offer you a special artifact or sometimes a little book that you're going to be able to use to enhance Indy's abilities. I do want to detour a little bit and I want to talk about the notes in the game, how they're all stored and categorized within Indiana's journal. It's almost like a scrapbook in a way that I loved the way that you're able to go back through that journal and you're able to recant your journey and be like, oh, I found this note when I was at the pyramid, or I found this little, piece when I was exploring the tunnels of the Vatican. Back to the books that you actually find, what these are going to be used to do is actually upgrading Indy's stats and different perks for the gameplay. So once you find a book, you actually be able to spend adventure points that you then can unlock that ability that the book sort of would give you. Adventure points are something that you accumulate over time just by playing the game, either by picking up notes, recipes, taking pictures with your camera, or just finding hidden artifacts or completing objectives. It is a bit of a gamified system, but never was I doing it because I needed more adventure points or I hit a stop point. More often than not, I was just doing it because I wanted to see where the mystery went. And sometimes those mysteries are going to take you to restricted areas of the map because, like I said, this is an open world sort of mini style open section. You have different ways of going into an objective. You're going to have different ways of getting out. different ways of completing it altogether. Like I said, this is sort of where the immersive light, sort of immersive sim elements come into play. And that was not something I was expecting to have with this game. You can either go ahead and try to walk in there as Indiana Jones, guns blazing, or you can do a little bit more of a stealth route and you can take advantage of wearing a disguise. These disguises are something that you can't just pull off a body like in Hitman, but it's actually an outfit that you have to find designated in the world. So in that first section for the Vatican, you're actually given a priest outfit and you're able to walk through any of the church areas without being spotted or having anyone really bother you. There is a funny little moment with a soldier during a side quest where Indy is in a confessional booth and it's downright hilarious.
Father, forgive me because I've sinned. I had an affair with my mother-in-law.
It's all right. Just say 3 Hail Marys.
No, Father, you don't understand. My wife is expecting a child, and I fear that.
What?
Yeah. Let me finish, please. I fear that my mother-in-law is with the child also.
Jesus Christ, what have you done?
Wait. You are not a priest.
I love it, but these offer up little moments that you wouldn't normally be able to have or do if you didn't have those, disguises. There's even one where you can find a German uniform that you can then use to infiltrate an underground boxing ring where you can just beat the shit out of Nazis, and I love it. Pretty fun. I don't think I mentioned this as well, but they absolutely nail the punch sound from the movies. It is like almost 1-to-1. It's so satisfying and it's so much fun to throw hands in first person. And that option of using the disguise also adds another layer onto this game that like I said, I wasn't expecting. The puzzles themselves, while challenging, are still manageable, and at times I even broke out a little notebook to keep at my desk so that I could write down little notes instead of having to flip through all the different menus within the game. And a lot of the time, as I was playing, I kept saying to myself, holy shit, this game's good. And it gave me that same feeling that Deathloop and Dishonored would have, like when you would pull off something that maybe it wasn't intended to be completed that way, but you still were able to pull it off that way. And the game let you do it. Picking up items in the middle of a fight is something that I also thought was a great way to spice things up. Whether it's a guitar, you're using that to smash over someone's head. You pick up a rifle. While yes, you can use that rifle, you've only got 6 or so shots with that rifle. Well, once you're out of those 6 shots, you can actually turn it and use it as a melee weapon, and you can actually do that with all of the ranged weapons within this game. So you can go ahead and you can go guns blazing, but then you can go ahead and melee, get up close and personal. You can also use your whip to disarm a guard, and this game really just excels at not just letting you play as Indiana Jones, but rather putting you in the shoes of Indiana Jones and letting you experience the world through his eyes. If you couldn't tell from early on in this review, I absolutely love this game. I'm blown away by just how much time I spent with it on the opening weekend. So much that I'm planning a rewatch of all the Indiana Jones movies because it's been so damn long and this game has got me in the mood for it. I think that Machine Games, Bethesda, and Xbox should be all pretty damn proud of this game and the reception that it's landed with. This was the type of game that Xbox needed, and no better time to release it than right around the holidays. Sadly, it did miss the cut for this year's Game Awards show, and I suspect we might have seen a few nominations for this game, but next year, being one of the most stacked years of gaming I've ever seen in history, especially if GTA 6 can make that launch of 2025, I do worry that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle could get lost in the shuffle come award season next year. But the game is fantastic. The game is awesome, and I think that you should try it. There is an expansion that is planned to release for the game sometime in the future. We don't have a concrete date for this at this time, but I suspect it could be around when the base game comes to PS5 sometime in the spring, so keep an eye out for that. Until then, I think I might run through the game one more time. I might try to grab a few more notes in my other playthrough. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to go for the 100% because that requires collecting every single note in the game, and I don't know if I got that in me. So if you're still on the fence about trying the game yourself, go ahead, grab Game Pass Ultimate for a month. It's going to maybe take you a week to play through. You get a really cool globe-trotting experience that sees you solving puzzles, punching Nazis if you need any more reason to do that. And even if you aren't an Indiana Jones fan, I think this game has a good chance at making you one, or at least allowing you to enjoy it and have a good time with it. I won't say for certain, but this game might just end up on my game of the year list at the end of the year. Maybe it hit just at the right time for me, but the general consensus that I'm seeing from everyone else in games media and a majority of the reviews is that I think we've got a classic on our hands and one that we might look back pretty fondly in the next few years. If you played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, let me know what you thought down below. Are you enjoying the game? Are you not enjoying the game? I should have one more review out before the end of the year. It's going to be for Astrobot, I believe. It's going to be a really short one, but I think I might go ahead and put that out. I've had a little bit of fun playing it on the back end. I've been writing the review for that. And then I should also have a video for the top 10 games of 2024 as well. So subscribe to catch all those videos if you're interested. And if you did make it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day. And this has been my review for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Thank you for watching.
Don't you want to know what this is all about?
You're damn right I do.